Chair, you are live.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'd like to call this meeting to order. It's January 13th, 2022, and I'm going to call roll call. Buck Bragg.
Here.
Sage Turner.
I'm here.
Tim Schaller.
Here.
Kate and Kaya.
Here.
Jeremy Goldstein.
Here.
And Jim Mcallister. Jim, you just need to unmute yourself.
Here.
Thank you. All right. I'm Chair Darren Green, and I'd like to welcome you to the January 13th, 2022 Asheville Area River Redevelopment Commission meeting. The purpose of this Asheville Area Riverfront Redevelopment Commission is to recommend to the city and county an overall policy for the continued, Christy will be joining us. It's for the continued development and sustainability. I'm sorry. I'll get back on track here in a second. Of the regional riverfront, the commission provides recommendations to the city and county for effective management of the public resources for the districts and actively pursues and assists private sector investments in the districts. The commission is made up of 14 members representing the city of Asheville, the Council of Independent Business Owners, Riverlink, Asheville City Council, Buncombe County Commission, and the town of Woodfin. Our committees consist of networking and river economy, as well as transportation and mobility. All commission members and staff are participating virtually. We appreciate your patience as we work through the committee meetings a bit differently. Pursuant to the North Carolina General Statute 166A-19.24F, this will be a remote meeting which the public can access by any of the following means. We are streaming live on our virtual engagement hub, which is accessible through the virtual engagement hub link on the front page of the city website and also linked on the committee page. We also have an option for the public to listen by phone by calling 855-925-2801. The meeting code number is 9385 for callers to call in and listen. Send comments by email to Riverfront Commission January 13 at publicinput.com. For those of you out there with us today, welcome. All right, we'll go into some administrative items. I'd first like to welcome our new commissioners, Kate and Kaya. She's appointed by the city of Asheville. Kate, would you like to say hello and give us a little bit of information about yourself?
Sure. Hi, can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here. Glad to get to know some of you and reconnect with some familiar faces, Steph, Jeremy. In particular. My professional background is as a landscape architect, and I've been fortunate to work across the southeastern region on a variety of public and private projects, all different scales. Currently, I work for Living Roofs Inc., and I'm co-founder of that company. We are a green infrastructure firm focused on green roofs. And I've been really lucky to call Asheville my home for a little over 14 years now, I think. 14 or 15 years. Those early years, I served on the Asheville Design Center Board of Directors in numerous task forces, including the Design Build Studio, which designed and built the footbridge down there along the French Broad in the River Arts District. And more recently, I had the opportunity to serve on the Riverfront Planning and Design Review Committee, 2019, 2020. So all to say, thanks for having me. I'm thrilled to be here and excited to get to work.
Thanks, Kate. Thank you for being willing to dedicate your time. I know it's precious, so thank you for being here.
I nominate Kate to join the Design Review Committee in Jane's place. Is there a second?
Goldstein, hold on. We're not there yet, buddy.
You allowed to do that?
All right. We do have another new appointee to the AARC, and that is Jim Mcallister. He's appointed by the town of Woodfin. Jim, thank you for joining us, and I'd like to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself.
Thank you. Jim Mcallister. I was recently elected to the town commission in Woodfin. I'm a almost 5-year resident of Woodfin, North Asheville. I live up on Reynolds Mountain. I'm retired from a very long and tiring career in the technology business. I was in sales leadership for an English and a Japanese technology firm. We sold hardware and software to banks and credit unions. I also serve on the board of directors, and I'm chairman of the medical advisory board for Sebastian Strong Foundation. We fund early stage pediatric cancer research projects. That's a passion of mine. And before COVID, I was a big traveler. So now I'm spending most of my time at home on Zooms and Google Meets. But I'm glad to join your group. I hope I can help.
Thank you, Jim. We look forward to having you, and congratulations on your position at the Woodfin Council. All right, we're going to move into the minutes. Did everyone have a chance to read those? They are from October 2021 and December 2021. All right, I see nods. Are there any changes or additions or revisions? Hey, Christy.
Hey.
We're about to vote on the minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thanks, Tim. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. And I'm going to go through and call everybody's name, and you'll have to vote yay or nay on the approval of the minutes from October and December of last year. All right. Christy Quinn?
Yes.
Buck Bragg?
Yeah.
Councilperson Turner?
Hi.
Tim Schaller?
Yes.
Kate Nkaya?
I was not present, but I vote aye.
Jeremy Goldstein?
Aye.
And Jim Mcallister?
I'll have to pass since I wasn't there on the commission at that time.
So Jim, what we're asking you to do is vote, because it's your duty as a member of the commission, but you can just say, similar to what Kate said, that you were not present, but you trust that everyone else has made sure that the minutes are correct. So
I will trust everybody that the minutes are correct, and I vote aye.
thank you.
Thank you. The minutes are approved. So I'm going into the public comment. Was there any public comment received in advance of this meeting?
There was not.
Thank you. We'll move on to the annual administrative items. So next we're going to talk about the annual report draft. This is not a final draft. It's a framework for the draft. We have until January 30th to complete and submit that to City Council. I'm looking for any comments. You can click the link and it can pull it up for you. Steph, do we want to go through it section by section? What is your suggestion
I'll have
here?
I'll comment on a couple things and see if it starts a discussion, if that's all right. The first thing I'll say is that this is a comment copy. So the chair, Darren Green, has already created a chair's statement and inserted it into the final copy, I believe. Darren, is that correct?
Yes, it could still be edited some, but sure.
Okay, so folks should know that that actually is already done. And similarly, we have a placeholder for a photo for our dear past member, Wendy Whitson. So we'll be changing that. And then what is probably most important is for those of you that were here last year to take a look at the section where it talks about commission business. Those are the main things, the highlights of what you all worked on last year. And if there's anything that isn't represented in there, we just want to make sure that it gets in. You don't necessarily have to know right this second, but we do need to know in the next week or so.
Hey, Steph.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the things I like that we did at Downtown Commission, and you may already be intending to do this, is to, when it's a project like 999 Robert Street, go ahead and link to the documents. Because sometimes when council gets them, it's like a review of everything and you can sort through. It's also, we learned at Downtown Commission was really helpful when we needed to look back at something. we could just go to the annual report instead of trying to remember what month it happened. Or
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Okay, captured that. Thank you, Councilwoman. I guess the other thing while you guys are thinking that I should remind you is that this year we would like to include mini bios. And some people were wondering what those were. And so I'm going to share something that'll give you an idea. Just 1 second here. Okay, so can you all see my screen? Yes? Okay, so this is an example from the 2019 Public Art and Cultural Commission. Including a little bit about yourselves helps the members of the public understand who is on our boards and commissions other than just having a name, what they do, what they look like, and maybe the other things that they're involved in the community. We got a lot of positive feedback from doing this with the commission. As you can see, it's just picking out maybe 3 or 5 things that you would say describe yourself, and including a small photograph, which I'm going to get from all of you. I've got some already from the 3 of you I've gotten them from. Thank you very much. Any of you are welcome to just send me a headshot you already have. In this case, it was in person, so I was able to take photos of all the members. But I'm hoping that, Chair, do you think we have enough time to actually let everybody just sit here for maybe 3 minutes and write down 3 or 4 things that they would just that they would use for their mini bio?
Yeah, I think we've got that.
Okay, great. Let's wait till about 4:16 or 17. That must be.
Would you repeat again the task? I can't see your screen, so.
Okay, you can't see the screen.
Nope.
Can other people see the screen? Yes, okay.
I'm sorry, I've never used Google Meet before, so perhaps I'm technologically crippled.
I doubt it, Jim, you're fine. What I'd say is, so I sent a link out earlier and I'll resend it to you all. So I'll just read some of them. So for instance, Valeria Watson wrote about herself in the Public Art and Cultural Commission. She's an artist, priestess, baker, Butoid, Damani Refuge African Cultural Center Director. Jay Fields wrote he's an artist, urban trail and public space advocate, journalist, nonfiction author, and teacher. So these are it's just a really quick way to say, like, these are maybe the top 5 things that you need to know about yourself. And people put in there, you know, mother, like you heard once somebody said they were a baker. But for some of you, it's going to be River District property owner. Some of you are going to say you're a county commissioner. Some of you might say you're a green infrastructure advocate. Kate.
Enthusiast.
Enthusiast.
how would you like us to get these to you? Just email them?
Please just email them to me. That would be great. Scroll down so you can see some more. You might see some familiar faces.
Steph, do you want to pull up our annual report as a shared screen?
Give me one moment.
Hey, Parker.
Okay, so for everybody to just walk through this a little bit, this is a logo that was actually created, I think, the very first year that the Riverfront Commission started, which for those of you that don't know, the commission had its first meeting in May 2010. It was also the same month that we kicked off the community engagement process for most of our Riverfront capital improvement projects. So we'll have a photo in there probably from the Rad Tip Grand opening. We always include the purpose of the commission. Here's a section where we're going to have a note from the chair. Darren has already written it up, and these were the key ideas that he was looking to potentially address for the council and other appointing boards to understand really what the commission is interested in and things are the biggest priorities moving forward, which really are align well with the subcommittees that you've all created last year. You have some space for additional photos. This is the placeholder photo. This is actually the annual retreat from 2019. So you'll see some familiar faces in there. We've got Joe and Jane and Wendy and Jeremy and Christy, Carlton Collins, and that's the back of Stephanie Brown, who's no longer in our community. This is what we wrote up for Wendy Whitson. Give you just a second here so that you can read that. And you all have commenting privileges on this document, so you're able to go in and ask questions and provide comments. Then the meat of your report is just reporting out on the activities that you all have worked on. So you had a significant number of administrative items, including for the second year in a row, you adopted new bylaws, which is a little unusual. And then we also had the recognition of service last month for Jane Matthews. The business, these are the different items that we worked on. Annual priority setting, which resulted in committee assignments. So these are just placeholders. There'll be some additional language in here for each one of these. Councilwoman Turner gave us a great idea under River District Design Review and Development Impact Review. We can actually link to some of the materials for those projects. So those are the main work that you did last year. And then we'll talk about, for looking ahead, anything that you guys might want to consider putting in here. But what we have so far is just that we are really looking forward to our annual retreat and having a full membership at that time. And then this is the membership as of last month. So we are going to have mini bios for all of these folks. And then at the end, I will be adding a new member section for the next year. And you are all, there's a sorting hat that sorts you into houses. So some of you are the House of Riverlink, some of you are the House of SIBO. And that's the report.
Thank you. Did anyone have any just quick thoughts or you notice anything that's missing? You have time to go through it and actually review it. But while we're here, if there's any comments, we can certainly discuss those. I'll take that as a no. All right. If there's nothing else on the annual report draft, we'll move on to the next point. The annual elections update. In our exec meeting with David Brown and myself and Steph, we decided that we would wait until March to have the election. By that time, we should have all of our seats filled. So we'll be looking for a new vice chair. David has decided that he would like to step down from the vice chair position, but I'll continue to serve as chair through 2022. So anybody who's here currently or any other new, we have I think one more commission seat to fill, is certainly encouraged to put their name in the hat for vice chair. We can move on to the annual retreat. We also spoke about the annual retreat in broad strokes with David, myself, and Steph at our exec meeting. And currently, we've noted the date of March 24th and 25th of this year, looking at a Thursday as an afternoon event. It'd be a mobile tour / workshop. Likely we'd look to utilize the open air trolley to visit certain locations throughout the district. And then Friday morning, we would look to have a remote work session, a virtual session. So that's as far as we've gotten as far as the dates and probably the way it could play out. Did I miss anything, Steph?
No, just what would be helpful for if folks could let us know their availabilities for those 2 dates. We've had, I think, maybe 1 or 2 people chime in on that. But so as Darren said, we were kind of looking for a half day afternoon. That's probably gonna allow us to have a little bit of a social hour afterwards, and then a remote morning the next day.
So yeah, when you have a moment, check out your calendars and let us know if those days work.
I could probably find a place for a social hour if you need it.
Oh,
Thanks, Tim.
thank you.
I'd say if there's the only other thing that we talked about, Darren, was maybe just also reminding the commission members that, it's your retreat. And so if there are specific items that you want to be learning about or discussing, please just let us know.
Yes. Good point. Thank you. I'm sure we'll be talking about it quite a bit as the day approaches. But yeah, please, any ideas, suggestions, please share those with me or staff or David. All right, we can move on to the next point of business, which is updates and discussion. We'll start with Councilperson Turner on the city staff updates. I'm sorry, scratch that. Steph, this is you for some city staff updates.
All right, I wanted to update you on a couple things. We are going to actually skip the open space update because right now I don't have any changes to report. But Design Review Committee, which Jeremy is eager to get some of those seats filled, so I really appreciate that. But what's really important for you to know right now is that there'll be a public hearing at City Council. I believe the meeting date is on the 25th, but that's might be bad math. It's 25th. Thank you, Sage. There'll be a public hearing that day to amend the ordinance that deals with Design Review Committee membership. So we updated you on this before, and now is the time to really pay attention. So in the past, the way the ordinance was set up was that we would select council. The community council selects 4 members from the Downtown Commission, 4 members from the Riverfront Commission, and then there's 1 at-large member that council appoints. And based on a lot of feedback, we are now recommending to council that it is 3 members from the Downtown Commission, 3 from the Riverfront, and then there's 3 at-large that they can appoint. So you should know that is headed to council. And It will be at council's discretion to make that one design review committee appointment from the Riverfront Commission. As a reminder, there is an application process. So Kate and Sage, I will talk to you about that and make sure that we loop in the city clerk and do the correct process to get that seat filled. I know Riverfront, go ahead.
How many members currently we have? How many of us are on the design review committee now?
Yeah, and Ben Williamson just resigned from that committee.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just me.
That's right. So let's just say that we are having discussions behind the scenes with another potential Riverfront Commission member who could fill out that application. And then of course, yes, Kate as a design professional, I think everyone is really interested in encouraging Kate to be a member of that committee, but that would fill, if the ordinance was changed, that would fill your 3 seats.
Right, and I just wanted to say, and I'll hit mute, but don't be intimidated by the application process. The council has to choose 3 from our commission. So if there's 2 openings and 2 applications, just fill the applications out and it should be fine.
All right, that sounds great. So that's where we are with the design review committee. And we wanted to talk a little bit about the last month, there was a request for an update on the Haywood Street Congregation Project. So the Haywood Street Congregation project is something that's not in the River District like design review area proper, but it's in what we call sometimes the courtesy review area. It's an area that extends or acts as a gateway into part of any of the river districts. So this is in the Weekend neighborhood, and it is a project that is going to provide support and assistance in a mix of affordable housing for different people in our community. If passed, it did go to planning and zoning last week, and it passed unanimously, I believe. Yes, it did. And next week, there may be a housing trust fund request at HCD for this project. So what I'm going to get here is the takeaway is going to be, there's a lot of ways for you to learn about what this project is, what it looks like, and all of that. So HCD is one of those places next week. I also linked in your agenda right before the meeting, just the P&Z materials for the project. So that's going to have, site plans, landscaping plans, a narrative of how the plan aligns. I'm sorry here with my mask keep falling down. How it aligns with regulations and guidelines. So I'm not going to get into details about that, just to tell you that the status of it is that it went through P&Z, and you can find out more by looking at those materials. I also want to share, because that is it's an important gateway for us. Many times when we've had our in-town retreats, we've looked at different parts of this gateway. We know that if you're coming in to Asheville across the Captain Bowen, Smoky Park Bridge, that or if you're just actually coming in from the north, say you're coming in from 81 or Johnson City, that your first impression before you get down into the River Arts or your gateway really is that eastern corridor of Patton Avenue. So even the Wilma Dykeman Riverway Master Plan discusses this corridor as being important. You are you come into town, and then you're usually going to take a right onto Clingman Avenue, head straight down into the River Arts. So city staff and other people in the community, there is an I-26 aesthetics committee, for example, have been really interested to see what the final plans would be for this, the changes to the Captain Bowen Bridge and any of the other I-26 design in this area, the Western Gateway of CBD and entry into the River Arts District for quite some time now. And we're getting to the point where we have a good idea of what that would look like. And so we're starting to have conversations about how to connect to the design of that project and what opportunities that provides us for racial and environmental justice initiatives, housing initiatives, stormwater and environmental protection initiatives, additional initiatives for multimodal transportation, connecting neighborhoods back into some kind of grid network so it's easier for people to get around and have opportunities to create wealth. And that requires us to do quite a bit of work, right? Looking at that area. And so we at council last week staff at council last week proposed to submit an application to the French Broad River MPO to ask for $350,000 worth of funding to study that area. And while it's not it's just something I wanted to let you all know because it's obviously connected to what you're thinking about for the growth and development of the area in the future. It would be something that we'd be looking at doing in fiscal year 23 if we were awarded that grant. But just FYI. And the last one, I think, would be Rad Lofts. People ask for some Rad Lofts update. Everybody's been talking, Rad Lofts is getting we call it Rad Lofts. It's actually Woodfield Apartments right now. And I think they'll come up with another name sooner or later, but they are getting their permits to get started on the ground. So you'll see some, groundwork in the future. And everybody wants to know, how is traffic going to be impacted? What's the noise going to be like from these activities? And so we've scheduled Brian Schick, who is a representative from that project, to come speak with you at your next meeting. He's also going to come to the Riverfront Leadership Roundtable next month as well. Those are my updates for you. Thank you.
Thanks, Steph.
Darren, if I could interject right there about the Rad Lofts, that I'm part of the RADBA, the Business Owner Association in the district. We'll be having a conversation with Brian Schick tomorrow. And I know that Brian McCarthy who owns the buildings where Ultra Coffee is and up to the Fergusons, had a conversation with him today. I just texted him to see how that went, but I haven't heard from him yet. So we do know that there's going to be a closing of Robert Street, which makes sense because they're going to take care of that 6-foot pipe that goes brings the stormwater down through Robert Street. So it'll have to be closed at that time. But I know the district is going to be one of the things that we're really interested in is keeping that being the only closure, but the rest of the construction is one lane closure. So we'll know more by next meeting after we have our conversation.
Yeah, I was also curious. I want to make sure I heard you correctly. Did you say you were requesting a $350,000 grant to study the intersection of Clingman and Patton?
It's actually a 1 mile section of road that's half a mile wide. It's a very large area. It's akin to, I would say, about half of the rad tip that we just completed. It's a major project. So it's the area right where the bridge ends on the east side of the Captain Bowen Bridge there, all the way to Pritchard Park. Oh, so we would be studying how this impacts our transportation network. And like I said, all those other aspects. So I'm sorry about that. I was saying that I think the main interest of this commission lies with how people get down into the riverfront from that area. And this is the kind of study that is really going to help us make those connections.
Great. Yeah, I hope you'll get rid of that crazy loop on Patton and Clingman if you're coming from downtown.
Thanks. I'll put that in the public input section. Great.
Could I jump in one more time and maybe Kate can talk about this, because I know that the 26 connector project from the design, whatever it was called, the committee she was on, working on that, had some really good plans about coming into the city that way. There was, as I'm having trouble remembering exactly what it was, but it made it a very attractive entrance. So maybe they was going to be pulled back up.
Yeah, when you were talking about that, I was remembering those renderings that were done of the bridge. And I didn't serve on the I-26 task force, but I know that there was a sort of, now that ADC is part of Mountain True, there was another group, was it the Connect? There was another focus group on I-26 and I was not involved in that, but I can, were you, Sage? Just to say that there's a lot of information out there that I could get up to speed on for sure.
It's I'd say that staff has done a considerable amount of work with kind of taking off from where the design center had a charrette with some of our staff last year, I want to say now. And so we would be happy to come and bring you kind of a little bit of a custom slideshow that with graphics that explains what those connections might be that Tim are talking about. And there would be actually a new connection. So you'd be able to connect down into the area before you actually reach Clingman Avenue if we're able to redesign things in the way that we would like. That would align with the plans for the weekend neighborhood and other plans.
That would be great. Are there any more comments or questions before we move on to the subcommittee updates? Sage?
Do you want an update from me, or were you asking me if I have any questions?
Oh, no, we're going to get to you, but we're going to touch on the committee updates, the two committees that we have. But you're coming up next. Get ready. Tim, if you'd like to start, Tim is the chair of the Transportation and Mobility Connections Committee.
Well, Christy, have you and Patty done anything on the water flood conversations? Anything happen with that?
We are talking, but conveniently we haven't had any weather events. But we're sharing information, and she's just making sure that I'm connected to the people that she was talking to. But we have everybody in place, and we're kind of waiting until we have a little bit more to talk about. But I think that everyone is on board for that. Is what I'll say about that for now.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Am I still here?
You're there.
Yeah, did you hear all that?
The other half of the committee, which I've sort of chaired somehow, hasn't really been that active. But Darren and I have been working. We brought it up last time, I think. We're working with RADA and trying to get the trolley that we've been working on for about 3 or 4 years that will connect from the Art Museum down to Black Wall Street, AVL. And one of us now has to make a 2-minute talk to city to try to get that money from the grant. So that's the activity that we're going to be doing in the last month or so.
Oh, yeah, we made it to the top 60. So, but I think Sage will have an update there. I have a little information to share on that, but we can wait till Sage gives us what she has.
I think it's top 60 with a bullet. That we're on the rise.
Thank you, Kate. Is there anything else that I know, Tim, you've been working on a 3-way stop for about 3 or 4 years as well. Are you frozen or am I frozen?
No, something's happening here.
Oh, okay.
I thought about bringing that up, but that's just
okay.
A lot of frustration with this, and I don't like that voice frustration with the cities because I'm not getting any reaction so far from transportation. So maybe Sage or Steph can tell me who to talk to now. Who is at transportation and who's in charge now?
That's still Ken Putnam.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll wait a little longer.
I'll do a check-in to find out, Tim, where that request lies.
Okay, I'd appreciate that.
If y'all copy me on that, that would be good.
Great, thank you.
For those of you who don't know, there's been an effort to install a three-way stop sign at the intersection of the entrance of the south entrance, the north entrance into the foundation. And I don't know the name of that street.
It's Old Lyman and Lyman.
Old Lyman and Lyman. So
Yeah.
what we're noticing is that people are driving pretty quickly through that section of Riverside Drive / Lyman, and that's a pretty active crossing right there. And the hope is to slow down traffic, but also protect walkers, bikers, skaters. So all of the above. So we've been working for years on trying to get a stop sign there. So that's where the frustration comes in, because from our perspective, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but we understand how things work. So I appreciate Sage and Steph following up and trying to get some activity on that.
Well, it is interesting because today is the official grand opening of the Marquee, which is that 50,000 square foot building that will create a lot of activity and more traffic in and out of there. And that's really what's happening. There's people trying to turn left coming out of there. It's just it's a cluster.
It's a very significant mobility connection. So I appreciate you. Oh, sorry, my dog's going to go nuts for a minute. All right. Family's home. Quickly, moving on. So I'm kind of acting as the co-chair, I would say, with Joe Ransmeyer, who's battling some health issues, of the other committee, which is the public safety, which includes water quality and river recreation. You could probably do a sprinkle of homelessness in there and crime. That's what we're going to be focusing on. One of the goals of this group, and Parker was at our first and only meeting so far, but was to create a panel discussion with some other commission members and some community stakeholders to help really network some issues and communicate with one another on some issues that are affecting a lot of different commissions. So stay tuned. I am having a meeting with the chair of Riverlink, Ann Keller, next week. And so I hope that we'll start to create some synergy. And I know she's a wealth of information. So I'm looking forward to that. Parker, do you have anything to add?
No, just that I was excited by and still think the idea we came up with is a great idea to try to have some sort of forum of some kind to kind of talk about. This might be just my memory of what the goal was, but around water quality issues and stormwater issues, at least in part, and to engage with like Riverlink and the French Broadwater Waterkeeper, and use our committee as a way to just to really establish some sort of public forum or speaker series of some kind to engage the district and just the city at large. I think that's overdue.
Yes. Yeah, that's my recollection as well. And the other thing is an underrepresented group are the river outfitters, the river recreation community. And I'm hopeful that we can get some of those folks to the table to also share, insights, perspectives, goals, challenges. And then something I failed to mention, not only will this panel discussion be helpful for other commissions to be able to just share and network, but it's also, of course, there for the community at large to be able to learn and be connected into what we're working on. So, Sage, I saw you had your hand up.
I was just going to chime in that for the last 4 or 5 years, there's been a speaker series that is part of a collaboration between the Design Center, mentioned earlier, the Downtown Association, and some local businesses. And they bring in folks to do this kind of thing and speak to, whatever the need is in the community. But you might be able to, I think most of that is canceled for this year. You might be able to piggyback on some of that and pick up some of their momentum and have river focused. Might be easier to grab that train and rebuild it.
That's great. Any information you can share with me directly would be great. I'd be happy to follow up on that. So thank you for that. And so we'll move on now to the Councilwoman Turner. You have some information to share about the ARPA grant application, and anything else you want to share would be great.
Okay. Mostly 2 updates, some APD changes around encampments and tent camping and ARPA. So as a city councilor, I have actually not received all of the ARPA applications yet. There have been some delays because there's an evaluation process that happens on the staff side. To date, I've seen the list of the appliers or the applicants, but not the actual applications. What we've done, we were kind of juggling back and forth how we wanted to proceed because there's so many great asks and so many great needs. So we've decided to allow applicants to submit a 2-minute presentation, and we're going to have 2 kind of afternoon events where we'll go through and listen to half of them. There's about 70, and it's voluntary, not required. So everyone may not choose to do this. Those dates are Tuesday, February 1st from 10 to 12 in the morning. And then the following Wednesday, February 2nd from 11 to 1 p.m. So we'll hear 2-minute pitches. It will be live streamed. And then council will reconvene, go through our evaluation process, work with staff, and then in February also choose. So we'll keep moving fairly quickly. And that's really all I have to update about that. If you have specific questions around it, I can try to answer them. It's just still a moving process. Any questions before I go on to the next item?
Well, we were wondering if we produced a video, if that can be shared. And as I'm saying that, I know that sometimes videos shared through these live meeting platforms don't fare well. But have you all discussed, is that something that can be
recorded?
Like a recorded?
That's a good question. Let me, I'll make a couple text messages while we're in the meeting and I'll update you.
Okay.
There is I just got an email and so it distracted me from Steph's presentation, but basically it said it had to be oral. It said it couldn't have any, additional stuff put in there, but it's not clear that the oral couldn't be pre-recorded. So that I'm skimming this email. So
I'll find out.
I just don't know what that means because it'd be much easier to not have everybody stammering through 2 minutes and really get their 2 minutes out, so.
Agree.
Yeah.
I'll find out when I can.
Do you know how many people applied? Just as a question.
Some had more than one application. I believe there's 70 applications. But for instance, like the city of Asheville was an applicant, maybe for several. So I'll find out about the pre-recorded. Any other questions about that item? Okay. So I don't know how many of you love to spend your Tuesday nights watching city council meetings, but we had a 4-hour meeting on Tuesday, and we heard some updates that I think, probably do pertain to Riverfront in that there's been a recent encampment up on the ridge. And what we heard was an update from both Emily Ball, who is the homelessness coordinator for the city, is a remarkable and hard worker that's doing a great job with this. And then also from APD about some alarming situations that are happening within the camping and around like a 500-foot radius and then 1,000-foot radius. And unfortunately, I'm very shocked to report that some of the situations are pretty bad. In the encampments we've had so far, there have been over 150 aggravated assaults, over 25 rapes, 100 and something burglaries, robberies. I mean, it's staggering figures. There's a presentation I could share in the comments if you'd like to see it. And so as a result of this, council is a policy making body, but we don't tell APD what to do. The city manager and the chief of police determined that. So what they came to us was as a suggestion that they noticed that the 7-day or longer terms that we were giving people to relocate was actually creating part of the problem, because it was an established time period was assessed where you can be here for X amount of days, and the encampments were growing and the crime was building. So what they've done is chosen to reduce that time of warning to just a couple days. And, you know, the first question that comes to mind right now is, it's freezing out. Where are these people going to go? So there's on the side of this, there's still this coalition of nonprofits that is working on sheltering, emergency sheltering, Code Purple, you've probably heard of. And if you're on that listserv, you may have noticed that we've just basically been in an ongoing Code Purple for a while now, and it keeps getting extended for days, whether it's freezing or not. And that allows for greater sheltering to happen. So while it's not great and ideal sheltering, like we don't have any more hotel rooms and stuff, we do have cots and shelters and places to be warmed. So that is going to be how APD approaches it right now. And I imagine that we'll get regular updates, but it's just become a pretty challenging situation. Any questions about that, or concerns, or what's happening in the river, or things you'd like to share?
No, thank you. I appreciate council taking a really closer look and finding some solutions for this problem.
You know, it's remarkable the amount of community partners and organizers already on this. Like, we're one of a dozen fast-paced working on this. It's amazing. And then we have some new organized folks joining the scene with fresh energy, fresh eyes, trying to say, here's the gap, this is what we see. They're getting together weekly. I mean, it's inspiring. It's both troubling and inspiring. But what we really need are like short-term, mid-range, and long-term goals. So we've got people on the ground working on the immediate. We've got people working on next year. We've got people working on the 10-year. So I think, you know, we've seen I think it's going to be some interviews on the news in the next couple of days as well, and some news articles. But we've been watching other cities, talking with other cities, and they're doing like these kind of boomerang things. They're trying this, it's failing. They're trying this, it's failing. So we're trying to assess what is safe for both the community, the people in the encampments and around, and, you know, just what can we do to make sure people aren't freezing? And that's the immediate right now.
Tim.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is a really horrible situation and tricky one. And my personal reaction is I feel like some of us in the River Arts Church could probably not legally, but it's almost Underground Railroad. There are people who are campers who are not a problem to anybody, who get tucked away in places, and it's usually one or two people. And it's, you know, hopefully this 2-day or 7-day, you know, the 2-day thing is not going to give license to pushing some of those people that aren't a problem out of where they are. Like, you know, so it's just, it's in my business, it's interfered sometimes when they take advantage of that, when more than the person you allow to harbor in place, you know, brings in other people, then we have to move them along. And then there is the police thing. So it's definitely not an easy situation, and it has gotten a lot worse. So Thank you for what you're doing. And, you know,
and it's sure, if you ever have any input or ideas, I mean, we're kind of just, it really is amazing how many people are working on this all day, every day. So if you have ideas, if you have some things out there that could help. I mean, that's an interesting point, Tim. I mean, in some ways, I'd worry about the 1 or 2 people out there on their own. Like, think about this 10 inches of snow coming. Like,
yeah, but there are people that have, you know, I have one specific person. I'm not going to go into it because, you know, would try to keep me safe.
Yeah.
But this person would not be okay in any kind of indoor space with other people that are also not mentally sound, is really what happens. And that, you know, the idea of sleeping out in the cold is not an issue for this person. You know, they've done it forever, you know. So that's, you know, it's not that frequent. It's like, it also goes back to when some of us lived in small towns and you knew that 1 or 2 people that everybody gave a couple bucks to at the post office kind of thing. So, you know, it's no longer that way, but it's hard to, you know, preserve that little bit. That's so.
You know, mentioned this at the council meeting as well, but I think as a community, we have a hard conversation that's yet to be had, which is, okay, so we're learning and evaluating, understanding the whole housing cycle from living on the streets to getting fully housed and what needs to happen in between. You've heard us talk about low barrier shelters, high access shelters, cold shelters, permanent shelters, supportive housing shelters, wraparound, I mean, all of it. But the question I get a little worried about is, we're still a small city. We are seeing an influx of folks coming to us because we're providing services. And, what the question I think we're going to face is, what's our capacity? Because we have to recognize there are people in the community like your friend, Tim, that may never seek shelter and wouldn't thrive in something like the Ramada, which was going to be 115 people in one place suffering from similar complicated afflictions. So we have a lot to learn still.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. My updates, other than if you hadn't heard, there's 8 to 10 inches of snow coming this weekend.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Sloan, do you have an update from the Buncombe County?
Yeah. Thanks, Darren. I mean, I can just touch on a few things that's kind of coming up in our agenda for our meeting coming up on Tuesday. I guess first I just, to talk about homelessness for a second. We just recently on the housing committee, the county housing committee, had a great presentation by Emily Ball from the city of Asheville, who is fantastic and a wealth of knowledge. And I guess I just kind of echo what's been said around the city is putting in terms of city staff, city government as a whole is putting a tremendous amount of just men and women hours into this problem, like no other issue that I've seen a local government do. And so that's just pretty remarkable, but also kind of emblematic of the scale of the problem and how it's kind of intertwined into a lot of the life of the city and our community. With that said, I think on paper, what the data tells me, what the kind of solutions we hear about tells me is that there's reason to be optimistic about our ability to kind of tackle this problem in terms of its scale, the quantity of beds and facilities that we need. There's definitely a need for long-term housing solutions and solutions to keep people from out of homelessness to begin with. But all in all, it just doesn't seem insurmountable to me. And so that's just something that when I talk about this issue recently, I want to, it just really seems achievable at a local level to the extent one can achieve solving this problem in a society that has homeless people to begin with. So that's my belief and nugget of optimism for January 2022. The other thing, just a quick touch on COVID. I think it's going to be next week. Hopefully the first of next week, you'll start seeing take-home rapid tests as well as high-efficiency masks at libraries and a few other community facilities that people will be able to pick up for free while supplies last. It's a program kind of set up by the state where local health departments can order these things in bulk, and we're having the same problem that everybody else is having. That there's just physically aren't that many of these tests in the United States, and so ordering them is a challenge. So I'm really excited about that. I wish it happened 3 weeks ago, but I'm excited about that nonetheless. It's a tool we haven't used enough. Moving on, just a couple important things coming up on our agenda. I think someone mentioned Haywood Street earlier. That is going to be on our agenda for new business on Tuesday. We're one of many groups that have been asked for funding for that affordable housing complex. So that's on our agenda. What else? Yeah, and so affordable housing goals and policies in general, that's something that our housing committee has looked at over the past 6 months, is solutions and ideas around supporting people in existing housing through vouchers, expanding the quantity of rental units and home ownership, affordable units that we have in our community. We've been doing some goal setting for months now, but I think we'll hopefully start to see some action taken and some really kind of historic levels of investment from our budget this year. Will be going into affordable housing. It's the number one issue on the commissioners' minds per our budget retreat that we had in December. It's the number one problem we want to tackle. I think one solution you'll see down the line is putting a ballot initiative on the ballot at the next election to do a bond to kind of leverage more upfront capital to build more rental units because that is the biggest, just in volume, the biggest need our community has. Yeah, I think the only other thing I'd mention on the ARPA funds, we kind of the way the county's done it, we kind of split it up into two tranches. We had a first round of applications for ARPA funds to the community that we finished up in December. That kind of ended roughly $24 million of spending, and we're expecting another $25 million to come from the federal government in May. And so Tuesday, we're also kicking off our solicitation to the community for further ideas on how to spend this second tranche of money. The only thing I'm sure of is that affordable housing will be something of interest to me and my colleagues. We had a lot of great applications last time. Certainly couldn't fund all the ones we wanted to, but I'll keep you guys updated on how that goes in terms of what we're seeking applications for moving forward with this second tranche.
Thanks, Parker.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions for Parker? So, Parker, in the past, you showed a interest in forming a stormwater water quality task force through the county. Have you made any headway?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I did kind of informally outside of the government form French Broad Water Quality Task Force, I think is what we ended up calling it. Primarily made up of Mountain True and Riverlink, Sierra Club folks, and myself and the French Broad Riverkeeper, and we've come up with a variety of recommendations to the county, mainly. Some of them aren't government specific, around water quality and erosion control and development, and that sort of thing. And I think those issues will be taken up. And I should probably share it with this group. Might as well. Those issues will be taken up over time through Buncombe County's new climate and environment subcommittee that we have. So that's kind of the avenue for those types of regulatory and programmatic changes and ideas. And I think, an idea that's recently come up that I think is probably best is if we have some sort of group or committee that focuses on these issues that involve public sector employees, these kind of private advocacy groups, but also people from outside of Buncombe County's boundaries that involve our waterways, from Henderson County, Madison County, that sort of thing. And so I think that's probably where this working group idea will go on the water quality front.
Yes, please share that when you are able. Maybe we can discuss it further in our next meeting.
Yeah, I will.
Thank you. Steph, that reminds me, months, if not a year ago, there was an economic study being done by some professors or maybe private from Western Carolina, I think, about the economic benefit of, was it the arts or was it the river?
It was, I think it was the Greater Watershed, and I believe that Riverlink they started a Watershed Alliance group, and Buck might be able to help me here. I'm not sure if he's familiar, but I think it was something that group was doing for a 3 or 5 county region. And I have not heard back about it, but I'd be happy to check in with some of those folks who I heard about it from last year.
Yeah,
That'd be great.
When Darren meets with Ann Keller next week, Ann can certainly fill him in on that as well.
I'll definitely ask her about that. But yes, Steph, if you think about it, we can tackle it together. But I feel like that would be good information for this group as well to just be aware of.
Oh.
Darren, you got muted. There you go.
Well, I haven't done that in a while. Thank you. So for our next meeting, which will be in February, we'll have a presentation about the Swananoa Greenway and the development impact review for the Bleachery Boulevard to Thompson Street section. We'll have an informal discussion of Woodfield, the Radlofts project with the developer Brian Schick. Do we have any live callers on the line?
We do not, Chair.
All right. Well, then it's 5:08. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Hey, I just heard from city staff. They're back to me about pre-recordings tomorrow, and I will email both of you. Okay.
Thank you, Sage.
Motion to adjourn.
I second that.
All right. Well, I hope everybody has all
And
of their snow gear.
I vote
Yes.
aye.
Get your sleds ready. Get your snow gear. Fill up your bathtubs with water just in case. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your week. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, team.